Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Bob Beckel, Eric Bolling, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. How much is the Republican plan to replace Obamacare going to cost? We just found out with the CBO estimates. The Congressional Budget Office released its highly anticipated report on the American Health Care Act a short while ago. John Roberts has it and joins us now live from the White House. John.
Dana, and I just want to flag you, too, that we're expected to hear from the OMB Director Mick Mulvaney and the HHS Secretary Tom Price outside the West Wing in just a couple of minutes, so please interrupt me when you see that coming. Three big numbers to keep in mind here from the new CBO estimate. First of all, $337 billion. That's the amount of money that will be saved between 2017 and 2026 by ending Obamacare subsidies. So Republicans will say, this is going to save an awful lot of money, and it's going to lower the deficits. But here's the bad numbers, at least for the Republicans. You'll hear Democrats talk a lot about this. Because of an end to Medicaid expansion and caps that will be implemented, the CBO estimates that 14 million more people will be without health insurance in 2018. And by 2026, that number will grow to 24 million, so that in total, 52 million people will not have health insurance by 2026, compared with 28 million who would have been without it if Obamacare stayed in place. The other number to pay attention to, premium increases. The CBO estimates that a single person not in a group, and that means that a person who's not paying in through a group health insurance at their employer or something like that, will see premiums rise in the years 2018 and 2019 by 15 to 20%. But the CBO also says, because of provisions to pay insurance companies for people in a high-risk pool kick in at 2020, the premiums will actually go down. The Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, saying positive things about the CBO estimate. We'll see what the OMB director and the HHS secretary had to say. But the big caveat that the Republicans are putting out there right now is that this is phase one, and that a lot of the cost savings items will not come until phase two and phase three. That's when they'll try to lower the price of prescription drugs, sell insurance across state lines, and also do things to try to lower the cost of health care in total. So that's a snapshot for you, Dana. We'll be hearing more about this in just the next couple of minutes.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks so much. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price says the plan won't cost Americans more out of pocket.
I firmly believe that nobody will be worse off financially in the process that we're going through, understanding that they'll have choices, that they can select the kind of coverage that they want for themselves and for their family, not that government forces them to buy. So there's cost that needs to come down, and we believe we're going to be able to do that through this system.
The president addressed the replacement effort at the White House earlier today.
The press is making Obamacare look so good all of a sudden. I'm watching the news. Looks so good. They're showing these reports. And the Republicans, frankly, are putting themselves in a very bad position. I tell this to Tom Price all the time, by repealing Obamacare, because people aren't going to see the truly devastating effects of Obamacare. So the press is making it look so wonderful, so that if we end it, everyone's going to say, oh, remember how great Obamacare used to be. Remember how wonderful it used to be. It was so great. The fact is, Obamacare is a disaster. And I say this to the Republicans all the time, by repealing it, by getting rid of it, by ending it, everyone's going to say, oh, it used to be so great. But it wasn't great.
All right, so I was in Africa for a week. I came back.
Welcome home.
This issue is still on the front page. I want to just ask you, Eric, to talk about this, and if I could set it up with a little bit more of what John Roberts was saying in regards to Paul Ryan's statement. He added, Paul Ryan did, that when people have more choices, costs go down. That's what this report shows. And as we have long said, there will be a stable transition so that no one has the rug pulled out from under them. This is a tough number for them in terms of the headlines, but do you think that they'll be able to actually drive home this message that they want people to hear, which is it's phase one, and that we believe competition will drive down the price?
No, I think they need to scrap this. I think the leadership, Paul Ryan and the rest of the leadership, pulled the wool over President Trump's eyes. They said it was going to be better, it was going to be cheaper, it was going to insure the same amount of people at a lower price, and it's not. The CBO came out with basically the same price. We're talking $337 billion over 10 years. That's $33.7 billion a year. That's a drop in the bucket. But one of the things that Obamacare was imploding, one of the ways we showed that Obamacare was imploding in itself, was that fewer people were going to be insured in 2026. That's true. 20 million fewer people would have been insured under Obamacare. The problem is 52 million people are going to be uninsured under this plan, according to the CBO right now. Look, is there a plan out there that can work? Yep. But, go back, start over, and come back with the plan that works. A free market plan that takes into account competitiveness with the state lines. We're talking about that. Tort reform. Well, who's talking about tort reform? Bring that out, too. I mean, malpractice insurance is killing doctors. The drug pricing needs to come down. And here's a good one. How about making medical medical providers, post the cost of what they do online? I mean, do you know how much it costs to have, I don't know, an MRI? Do you know how much it costs to have any sort of procedure? Put it online.
It's not the doctor so much as it's the insurance companies.
It's both, though, Dana. They can both do that.
Ask Kimberly. So the president is sticking by them so far, the Republicans, and that what they would say is that this is not taken into account the things that he can do from the Oval Office as part of administrative actions to try to deal with some of the Obamacare plans that were in place, because a lot of that had to wait till Tom Price got into position. Now he's there, and that there are amendments that can work through to try to improve upon this bill to get to the point that where Eric is saying.
Yeah, so you want to, yes, take him for his word, but also you'd like to sort of see what the recipe is and know exactly what you're going to put in the crock pot, okay? So what people wanted to say is, listen, we rejected already what the Democrats put forward in Obamacare. So how is this markedly different and in fact going to provide better quality services, more affordability? Eric touched on a lot of the things, which there has to be this competition, across state lines. To me, that should be step one, not stage 2, 3, or some kind of, amendment or order from the Oval Office. I think people want to know up front. I don't think the CBO numbers really helped. I mean, listen, bless his heart. Paul Ryan's out there trying to sell it all day long, but this shouldn't be that tough of a sale. The Republicans complained about this. They were tough on President Obama, and they should have been, but now they need to deliver, because this is catastrophic for the party if they don't get this pushed through in time in 2018.
Greg, I was thinking earlier today about how there's obviously there's pressure on any president. There's particular pressure on President Trump because he can communicate to people like nobody else. But as he said last week, healthcare is extremely complicated, but they're asking him to shoulder a lot of it.
You know what CBO stands for? Congrats, Barack Obama. Because in these action movies, when the hero walks out of the enemy's lair and it explodes behind him and the hero just walks away in slow motion, that's Barack Obama. And the explosion was Obamacare. He left that behind because he knows that an entitlement, once you put in there, it doesn't even have to be any good. You're stuck with it. And I think at this point, Donald Trump could make this into a win by saying that Barack Obama made Obamacare, but he's going to make Obamacare great. Not again, because it never was great. Right. But the thing is, I go back to my original metaphor, which is that government programs, it's bubble gum in your hair. You can't get it out once it's in there, so you have to
cut that out.
You got to cut the whole thing out, and then you got a big blank splotch there. Yeah. And and Obama knows that. That's why he's not sweating it, because he knows you can't. It's there forever. And we also have to be fair about this. It is in phases. They are talking about competition, and it comes later, and they're doing it because of reconciliation.
Yeah, there's a rule.
They're not dumb going like, we better not do competition. They're trying to figure out a way through reconciliation.
Methods to the madness.
The problem is with this is the most important number is that
Bob,
50.
I don't mean to cut you off, but they're saying that there's a lot. I would never do this if they weren't telling me. There's a live press conference with Mulvaney and
exciting.
Thank you very much.
Just wait. We've got more stuff coming. Why not do it all at once so we understand the full package, all phases?
Well, it's being rolled out all at once. The fact of the matter is, we're working on the regulations right now. In fact, we've had a proposed rule that's been out there to narrow the window so that insurers are able to stay in markets that they're having to pull out. Remember, 1/3 of the counties in this country. 1/3 of the counties, over 1,000 counties, only have one insurer offering coverage on the exchanges. 5 states only have one insurer offering coverage on the exchanges. You tell me that that's what the plan was. The fact is that those folks have no choice whatsoever. The federal government has destined them to only have one opportunity to purchase coverage. And if that's not what they want, then tough luck. That's not our plan. Our plan is to allow individuals the opportunity to purchase the kind of coverage that they want for themselves and their family in a market that allows them an array of choices so it suits them, not what the government tells them.
Are you encouraging lawmakers to disregard this report?
No.
What are you asking?
No, we will read the report, look into the report beyond the top lines, and we'll have further comment tomorrow and talk with our colleagues about why we believe the entire plan that we have recommended moving forward and adopting is one that will provide greater opportunity for folks to purchase the kind of coverage that they want and put patients and families and doctors in charge of health care, and not the federal government.
What's your lawmaker?
Absolutely not. No.
Thank y'all. Thanks, guys. Stay warm.
I got to tell you that I love a person that can call his own press conference and say, like, that's it. Because usually it's left to the press person to be the bad guy. I'm sorry, I was the bad guy and had to cut you off. Bob, the CBO says fewer covered, more expensive. What say you?
Well, Bob, wait a second. I'm hearing there's a press conference right now. We have to go to NASA.
That's fine. That's fine. It's just okay.
There's a weather report?
It's a weather report and rose production facilities available. The real problem here is the 58 million. And it's not just for Democrats. It's Republican governors where they want to cut the Medicaid off, where they've expanded in states, are going to be very upset about this because they're going to have a lot of uninsured people on their hands. And in some ways, I mean, that is a little bit of Obama's curse when they expanded Medicaid like that. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying, boom, we're going to cut it. And the conservatives want to cut it in 2018. That's real politics. That's real votes. The budget deficit, Eric's right. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket. I don't think that becomes a good campaign issue, but certainly 58 million people do. And the government programs, you know, I've always said this, once you get them, you can't get them back. I mean, you know, particularly you give them to any governor loves them.
Can I throw something in here? There's a great opportunity for President Trump to say, look, you guys promised something. You promised that you're going to deliver to the American people something better. This is not better. We're not ready yet. Stay with Obamacare and let people eat Obamacare for another year or year and a half and say, look, in the meantime, we're going to find something better. Politically, the worst thing in the world to do is try and push this thing through and have it be equal or worse than Obamacare.
Because that's what they did.
But let you know, look, put this on the Democrats. You guys are the one who wanted Obamacare. You guys are the one who've pushed this through. Now we have it. Now it's going to take us a little bit longer to replace it with something better. In the meantime, it's yours. If you go ahead and say, we'll do this now and fix it down the road, and you don't fix it, you're going to get destroyed in 2018.
Yeah, you know,
Sounds like that's tough to do.
The other thing, too, is that they have, that would be better politics all the way around, to say we're just not going to go forward with this thing. Trump against his own Republicans.
But he's been very thoughtful for months, saying that it would be politically expedient, yes, for me to just say hands off, like let's just watch it do it.
But he was also tricked, Dana.
He said it again
today.
He was also
tricked by leadership. Leadership said that they were going to deliver the complete House and Senate with this replacement bill, and they didn't have it. They thought they had it, or for whatever reason, but they never had it.
So then,
not his fault.
But then if he does that, what you were suggesting, then how do you actually put the blame on the Democrats if he's actually saying the Republicans tricked me?
Because in the meantime, you have Obamacare, which we know is in the process of imploding anyway. Let's not bail them out by giving something, by turning the blame from Obamacare to Trump care when it's not. It shouldn't be.
You know, Ryan's argument here over and over again is if we don't do it now, we're going to get killed, right? Because we promised our base. I think you
Ryan Care.
Ryan Care, right? I mean, if you're going to say that, then you better have something that works. I mean, you know, he can be expedient, forcing stuff for as fast as you want, but we're not too far off from the elections. And I'll tell you, if I were what Cooper said, Senator Cooper from Kentucky is right to his House Republican colleagues. You don't want to walk this plank right now. Take it back. Take some time. Think about it. I mean,
I think then you end up where Greg was saying, which is with probably nothing.
Well, right now, Obamacare is the car up on the blocks in your front yard, and everybody has to tinker with it. It's not going away. And I don't see this as an apocalypse for the Republicans. It comes in phases, and we're jumping all over them because they didn't put it all in one. The reason why they didn't put it all in once is because they wouldn't get it through.
58 million is an apocalypse.
Well, that's what
58 million is an apocalypse if you're counting on nothing else happening. That's like saying we're all going to starve to death if we don't eat dinner.
No, I'm just saying that's the most expedient political number for the Democrats.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I milk it for all it's worth.
The most expedient political number is, forget 52 million in 2026. Next year, 14 million.
14
million people will lose their health care under this plan.
What percentage of that is Medicaid?
Whatever. Half.
Half?
All right. We're going to have more on this later tonight on Fox News because Speaker Ryan will join Bret Baier at 6 p.m. for an exclusive interview with his reaction to the CBO score, so make sure to catch that. Meanwhile, the Trump administration just gave dozens of U.S. attorneys from the Obama era the boot. Past administrations have done the same, so why is there so much outrage now?
On Friday, President Trump asked 46 Obama-appointed U.S. attorneys to step down. Common practice for new administrations, but it sent the left and the mainstream media into mass hysteria.
This weekend, an abrupt changing of the guard at the Justice Department.
Breaking news surrounding the sudden order for 46 U.S. attorneys to resign. The abruptness makes this stand out.
Let's refresh their memory. Former Presidents Clinton and Obama did the same thing. Remember that? In fact, Clinton had current Attorney General Jeff Sessions fired back in 1993 when he took office. And there only seems to be outrage when it's a Republican president who makes this kind of move. Look at Politico's headline back in 2009. It said, Obama to replace Bush U.S. attorneys. A much less friendly headline for President Trump in 2017. Politico referring to it now as an ousting. All right, so there we go. Let the verbal gymnastics begin, Dana. So you have some experience in this specifically, and you've talked about it before when this went on during the administration you were part of.
Well, it was a slightly different as handled it in 2006, and the difference being that, so it's not uncommon for the president when they first come in to make this decision, and Clinton did it, and everybody seemed to have forgotten that. Then when Obama did it, the news media wrote it as if it was a relief that the Bush U.S. attorneys were going to be removed. I don't give the White House any style points necessarily. There's like no bonus for that. But I do think that the one thing that was a big deal on this, in this case, was that Preet Bharara, who the U.S. attorney here in New York, did have a meeting with President Trump, did come out to the camera and said he was asked to stay. And who knows what he probably didn't think he was going to be asked to stay. So who knows what he gave up in order to stay? And then he finds out the rug's pulled out from under him, and there's that kerfuffle. And I think that's why it got a little bit more attention. But where the Trump administration did better than we did in 2006 is after that midterm election, the president had decided to remove a handful of U.S. attorneys, I think it was 7. And instead of just saying they serve at the pleasure of the president, and we're not going to answer any more questions about this, walk away, instead, the Attorney General at the time said it was based on an appraisal of their performance, and we went down that rabbit hole over and over again. It became a huge scandal. People got subpoenaed. I was actually asked questions by a U.S. attorney in Connecticut about it under oath after I even left the White House. So I think that they did a lot better job. I do also would say this: if you fire all 46, that means that what comes up behind are usually first assistants who are very qualified, but they're not political appointees. These are career civil servants. So the goal, I think, of the administration would be, how do you appoint 46 U.S. attorneys to be in there that are your appointees? And that takes a while.
It does. It takes some time to vet it through. So, Eric, obviously this is something that happens politically. What's your opinion on whether or not it's the right thing to do, and you should be able to bring your own people in?
Well, just take it from Maxine Waters in 2009. She said, I can't believe we haven't fired all the U.S. attorneys yet, because there's always a changing of the guard. So taking her example, yes, it was okay. Dana's right. They said, let's get rid of all 46. We're going to move those people out. The issue is that Preet Bharara is a very high-profile U.S. attorney. He brings a lot of cases. He had, at one point, had said he had a meeting with President Trump. No one exactly knows what they talked about or what they said. But when he was asked to tender his resignation, he said no, and then he said, fire me. And now what the implication is that he wants to run for governor of New York, and he's going to use this big fight with the Trump administration as part of a profile-raising situation.
Okay, well, it's going to be tough because there's also Cuomo still involved in that mix for him to be able to take him down.
He said something interesting. He said that now I know what it feels like to be the McDougal Commission or something. There was a commission that was investigating corruption in New York, and then they were fired by Cuomo after some bill was passed. The two things that got him in trouble. Here. First of all, there's no reason for anybody to be upset about this. It happens every time you change administration. What they ought to do is ask for them all on the same day. Just say on October 1 or whatever, December 1, they had married this case.
Seemed like a big political kind of grandstanding, because he said, I'm not going to resign. You're going to have to fire me. But he seemed to be particularly aggrieved because he claims, Greg, that he was in fact told to stay, but then there was pushback from the administration about that, saying the misunderstanding as to
I don't care. I honestly don't care about him. I think the alarming...
Well, your investigation goes away, though, when he's done.
I think the alarming reaction over these firings is nothing but good news for Trump. So, because what is their alarm about? They're upset that lawyers were fired. Somehow I don't think America is going to get behind you over that same outrage. It's like, oh my God, you fired lawyers? What's next? Did you fire cockroaches?
Right.
Like, I mean, people do not have a positive view of lawyers. So this is, and also, I don't really.
Cockroach is a little much.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. You're a prosecutor, but you were one of the good ones.
Thank you.
But I mean, the fact is, their lawyers getting fired in D.C., I think they're going to find work. They're in D.C., and the media playing whack-a-mole with all of these stories. Every story is more outrageous than the next. And then you look at the story and you go, oh, that's not a big deal. They did this under Bush. They did, and you suddenly realize that they're exhausting their outrage muscles and they're marginalizing their sincere outrage. So when something actually does happen, something big happens, no one's going to listen to you because you cried wolf.
Well,
It's one of the best jobs though they have. And you notice what these guys do? They'll start cases right before the election. Big time profile case, and then say, well, we can't get you out of this.
They're all going to get jobs in like white collar law firms and become partners and make boatloads of cash and afford counseling for the trauma of this all. Fasten your seatbelts, everyone, because the fastest 7 next.
Time 4. Well, that's a little different. The fastest 7 minutes on television. She's beautiful. She's successful. Brilliant. And according to Saturday Night Live, she's this.
She doesn't crave the spotlight, but we see her. Oh, how we see her. Complicit. A feminist, an advocate, a champion for women. But, like, how? She's loyal, devoted, but probably should have bounced after the whole Access Hollywood bust thing. Oh, well. Complicit. The fragrance for the woman who could stop all this, but won't. Also available in a cologne for Jared.
All right, KG, your thoughts?
I mean, what can you say? Not nice, weird. No, I don't think it was very, I mean, Scarlett looked pretty, but I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, why are they taking hits at her? She's like the best thing going.
Greg?
Well, that's what you do. She's a target. Like her or not, she's an adult, and she's politically, she's out there. However, Lorne Michaels and Saturday Night Live must be so thrilled that President Trump won. Because if you look at their ratings and you talk about Carrier, what Trump did for Carrier, Trump saved Saturday Night Live's jobs. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, all of those hacks would be doing open mic nights in Scranton.
Dana.
Wow.
I didn't think it was funny. I liked it during the campaign. In one of the interviews, she said, "I'm a daughter, not a clone," and I thought that was one of her most effective and genuine explanations for her role. And I also feel like the White House could highlight a little bit more some of the things that she does. So a couple of weeks ago, she hosted a meeting, encouraged her father to come, and he did, on human trafficking, an issue that a lot of people care about, and it just got swallowed up in the other news of the day. But she's doing some good things that I think everybody could agree on, right and left.
And he followed up on that, Dana, and it's been a big crackdown, so that's a good point.
I think Saturday Night Live lives again because of the Trump administration. I mean, look, they put their whole show around it. So get him a couple more years. Michael's got to die at some point, doesn't he? I mean, he's got to be 89, didn't he?
No,
all of us will.
No, not that old. All right, let's do this one. There's a new Snoop Dogg video making waves throughout the blogosphere today. The video is unremarkable through much of it until towards the end, where Snoop character assassinates the Trump-like character.
This the final call. This the final call.
All right.
That's horrible.
All right, Greg. You know, we're First Amendment protected.
Let's do the obvious.
Yeah.
Let's do the obvious, because even if you bring up the corollary, people will be upset.
Right.
Kid Rock pulling a gun on President Obama.
Yeah.
How about doing that? No one. I mean, could you imagine somebody doing that? Or maybe I don't know, Ted Nugent pulling a gun on Hillary Clinton. Imagine that. So it's like, where is the liberal outrage when it comes to civility? Remember when Sarah Palin did her emblem look like a target, and they said that encouraged shooting? It's like, I get art, but I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy is pretty obvious.
Imagine if they did that with President Obama.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Bobby?
You don't get art. You don't like being in Scranton. That's an artistic
I
capital
love
of the world.
Scranton.
I'd say it's first of all, I had a drug dealer named Snoop Dogg, and he was arrested. He went away for 20 years. Did you?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. But you shouldn't be making fun of shooting anybody, and particularly the President of the United States. So.
Especially when you were acquitted for murder, and Some wonder why.
Yeah, and Dana, some kids, they watch this, they look up to Snoop, and I mean, man, talk about desensitizing.
Right? What is it that politics flows from culture? And they wonder why there's an incivility problem?
Cage?
I didn't like that at all, but I don't know. I like the dog thing, Scarlett Johansson, but the Trump dog.
Okay.
Well, that was my favorite part of the show.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's have a little bit of fun now, right? So over the weekend, Van Jones and I did a celebrity boxing thing for charity. We flew to Vegas. Well, take a look. I'll just tell you how it went right
You
here.
did?
Yeah, I'm in the red gloves because I'm a red state guy. Van's a blue state guy. I got
Up there, maybe not so much.
You had
down
me
here.
buying that Van Jones thing,
Well,
but
does it look like me and Van Jones? Come on, give me a break.
I can't see.
It's hard to see.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I'm not touching that.
All right. I'll tell you what. Next time, I'm picking the stories for Fast
Do
and 7.
that.
President Trump
Deal.
promised he's going to drain the swamp. He's preparing huge budget cuts to speed the process along. That's next.
Well, the media is already reacting to Donald Trump's upcoming budget proposal.
I felt outraged, but I didn't scream and I didn't cry. And I need to.
Yep. Washington Post says that the proposal, quote, would shake the federal government to its core, calling back numerous programs and expediting an historic contraction of the federal workforce. What language? Shake to its core, culling, historic contraction. It's like Trump's a tornado having a baby on the government's head. The numbers aren't even out. But my bet is the proposal targets just the edges of the budget, not the meat. It's like ordering the extra large meat lovers pizza with 4 cheeses, but holding the olives because you're on a diet. Look, the federal government is enormous. It never shrinks. And the interest is killing us. It's funny, you know, when you're running out of anything like toilet paper, you notice that you start using less.
Ew.
But you never run out of the budget. It's our giant invisible wallet in the sky. And so our bureaucracy turns into an episode of Hoarders. The mess just keeps growing, and all we can do is remove one Glad bag full of toenail clippings. But if we're going to spend, let's at least spend it on the stuff that guarantees the rest, meaning new technologies that make us safer, the stuff that protects us from cyber, bio, and nuclear terror, as well as the toxic doctrines that drive such threats. So if we're going to go into debt, let's do it on the stuff that matters. More protection, less PBS. Bob, no one likes to do the hard work of cutting entitlements, right?
Well, I was still on toenails.
Or
I
toilet
don't
paper.
get that. You know, this is tried. Every administration tries to do something, and the reason there are federal programs is there's people behind them. And members of Congress, they protect them, and it's not a partisan thing. You know, they still have, cow flatulation department.
I run that one.
We don't want to lose that. It'd be important. But they're going to try to do this. It's not going to work, and maybe they'll end up being flat on it. The other thing is they're starting to cut things like the Coast Guard. I mean, you got to be careful with this. I mean, you talk about the war on drugs, and then you cut the Coast Guard. I mean, I don't get it.
Eric, any surprises? Do you think there might be some stuff in there that will be larger than what I'm only predicting on what I think might happen just on the edges, but do you think there'll be something else going on there?
So Republicans and conservatives have pointed out that under President Obama, the 8 years there, he doubled the national debt from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. So all the presidents combined up until Obama had 10 trillion, and Obama had another 10 trillion. The risk is, if you look at these, and I'm going to do a little bit of this in the one more thing, but if you look at the rate at which the debt is increasing, you have to slow that down. Otherwise, in another 8 years under Trump, you could have 40 billion, not 30, not additional 10, but doubling. So he doubled the debt. If you do it again, you're talking $40 trillion. At some point, that becomes unsustainable. So they have to be finding ways to cut the budget, to cut the deficit that we add onto the national debt.
How much interest is it? 40.
I'm going to do
a
this.
lot.
It's 2.5%, so it's pushing $450 billion. $450 billion.
Just for
I should have got
it. Would be the 26th largest economy in the world, just the
fake laugh. Kimberly?
Two good exceptions to this, cutbacks, right? Our immigration judges and Border Patrol. So we keep those, add some more, because that's also fulfilling a campaign promise.
There's no way you can be reverse Santa Claus, can you? It's just
Cannot
too late.
be. But the federal government, the actual workforce, the number of people working for it has actually been flat for like the last 20 years. And so to Bob's point, that it's hard to make additional cuts. One thing that will definitely end up with fewer people is that the number of federal employees that will retire in the coming years is really high, but that means that they will get their pension, which then you have to figure out, make sure that you're funding that. But a good solution for some of these jobs could be your favorite topic.
What?
Robots.
Robots.
And automation.
Yeah, we've been trying to
like today when I came back through immigration, you just go back through with the little passport, thing, ding, ding, ding. Like an iPad, done. I walked out. It was like so much more efficient.
Imagine if your congressmen were robots, if your senators were robots, how much easier it would be.
Imagine if your husband was a robot. I saw this on TV this weekend where this woman's like in love and marrying a robot.
Who?
What were you watching?
No, I think that was a biography on George Clooney. All right, next. Did members of Hillary Clinton's team meet with Russians during the election? Vladimir Putin's spokesman reveals the answer ahead.
9 days ago, our president recklessly claimed his predecessor had wiretapped Trump Tower. He has only a few hours left to prove it. If Mr. Trump has any evidence, it must be turned over to the House Intelligence Committee today. Vladimir Putin's hoping to defuse all this by talking about Team Trump's ties with Russia by sending out his spokesman saying Team Clinton was tied to the Moscow too. That's really interesting stuff. Okay,
meetings with Clinton campaign officials because I don't know of any.
Well, if you look at some people connected with Hillary Clinton during her campaign, you would probably see that he had lots of meetings of that kind.
Greg, I don't want to get in trouble with your wife on this, but every Russian sounds the same when they speak.
Helpful, isn't he?
Yes. Thank you. The other thing was that I said a week ago that the one phone call I could get an answer to this, Trump could, and John McCain said the same thing over the weekend. You want us to resolve this? Pick up the phone, ask if it was a warrant. And he hasn't done that. My guess is he won't make anything today, and by tomorrow it's going to prove who it was, which was an untruth.
All right, one more thing is next.
You know what I'm excited? I thought Kellyanne Conway had a great idea, a microwave that turns into a camera, because that actually saves a step on Instagramming your dinner for one lasagna. You just press it, the food's in, your little burrito, you get a nice picture of it. Don't you think that'd be a great idea?
Can I tell you a funny story about that?
This is going well, isn't it? Going well.
No, I was in line the other day, and this young millennial was serving another young millennial boy to a girl, and as she was going through the food, he said, "Would you like some extra parsley for the Instagram?" And he was flirting with her. It was very cute. Millennials, in love.
If ever was a situation where I've lost control of a second.
Wait, wasn't this about wiretapping?
No, say something about wiretapping. You've been jumping on me about it. No truth.
Who taps wires anymore?
I do.
Is that how you do it?
Huh?
Is there a new way to do it now?
Oh, yeah. Samsung TVs,
yes.
they got busted on the idea you could have that in your house. And
I know, they do. Mine turns on.
Yeah, anybody's got Samsung.
It's very strange.
I think they're related to church or
You have to cover it, because otherwise then they can see you. Like, literally, it'll turn and, like, mirror and show back everything that's in that room. Or it's not good.
Have you ever seen the movie The Ring? Women actually come out of the TV.
Greg, you was very strange.
Stage manager has.
Yeah, the stage manager. Everybody's seen The Ring.
You Bob would know about
they're going to make a great movie. Deadline today?
I don't think they're going to turn over any information. I think the investigation is ongoing to find out who called for the wiretaps. As we know, there were 2 wiretaps requested, one in June by the FISA court that was turned down, one in October that was accepted. And so whatever data they got, hopefully they prove who they were tapping and who else got implicated in it.
Kellyanne said that on Fox and Friends that the investigation is ongoing.
There's a source for you. All right, one more thing is up next.